You're at your old trusty boat. You call mighty sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we hear stories from everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. All right, well, here we go. We are now officially live. I want to welcome my very esteemed guest all the way from Two Slips Over. We got Richard. Richard, how you doing?
Oh, fine, Jerome. How you doing there today?
Not too bad, got a lot of projects done. As you know, I'm getting ready to sail north, and so I got, the deadlines as they draw in, the more and more stuff I end up doing.
Yeah, suddenly you get everything starts to fall in on you.
Yeah, that date keeps creeping up, but I guess let's just start off how I normally do. And what sort of boat are you floating on?
I've got a CNC 30 Mark II for my sailboat. So,
and how big is that?
It's actually just 30 foot, 29.9.
Oh, okay.
30 feet, yeah.
And it's definitely a much faster, sleeker sort of racing. It's kind of a racing type boat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it was a hot rod in the old days, back when it was built. And actually they took the whole design and they still build it. But now it's all built out of carbon fiber and stuff like that. So
what year is it?
Mine's an 87.
Oh, okay.
It's an old boat, yeah.
Well, I mean, mine's an old 1970s, so
yeah, I know.
It's funny how old. It is strange. I mean, so many times I just the years just fall off because now when I think of just things that were in the 80s in my childhood, I used to think, oh, it wasn't that long ago, but now it's like almost 40 years ago.
Well, good boats last forever. I mean, yours is a Crelock and this is a Ball.
Right.
Both, great designers. So.
Well, and as far as, so yours is a fiberglass boat, obviously, but it must have either a foam or a balsa core to it, right? To keep the weight down?
The roof, the top side is balsa, but a lot of it is solid in the hull itself.
Yeah, well, she's definitely strong because I think your mast is actually taller than mine.
Yeah, it's not quite 50.
Not quite 50, yeah. I meant like 45, I think, from the water. Water.
Yeah,
short,
you're a short boat. So
I know. Well, and the Sparrow tries to make up for it with that huge bowsprit and the boomkin, so it's trying to show off, but,
Yeah, but those high, the faster winds are up higher, so.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, but I don't have many adjustments that I can make to, the rake of the mast or the twist in the mast or any of that sort of stuff. But I'm sure on your boat you've got all those controls.
Yeah, if there's a tweak device, that boat's got it on.
Yeah,
there. It's got Cunninghams and baby stays and all of this kind of stuff. So.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. Well, anything that you could do to slightly alter the sail shape.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I definitely wanted to have a chat with you was, the amount of projects that I see you getting into and the depth at which you do these things is astounding to me. So just a background on some, I keep my boat as dead simple as possible. Mm-hmm. One, because, if I'm out at sea for months at a time, I have to keep things, from breaking down. But also, I have a tendency of taking things apart and not being able to put them back together or screwing them up.
That's a problem, yeah.
But I don't think you have that problem. I mean, what was it a few days ago, you were taking apart your radar dome.
Yeah.
So one, I guess, where did you sort of develop the skill set to be able to do that sort of stuff?
Well, I'm getting on in years, and I've been into things for a long time. I guess if you go far enough back, I went back in the old days. I had a choice. I could either, pick up a rifle and go slogging around in the jungles of Vietnam, or what I did instead is I signed up with the Air Force.
Oh, really? I
Okay.
didn't know that. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then what they did is they gave me a bunch of tests, and they said, "Hey, you're a pretty smart guy. Here, why don't you?" So they sent me off to tech school for a year, and then I spent 3 years with Strategic Air Command and stuff like that.
Where was that?
Well, that was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the tech school was Biloxi, Mississippi.
And this was in the 1960s?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very cool. What was that like? Was it fun?
Yeah, actually, it's a kid that got a gazillion, millions of dollars worth of toys and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I guess, right?
You know.
Jeez. So that's, in a way, that's sort of like college in the Air Force, in a way?
Well, after
Like a tech college.
after I got back out of when I got out of the Air Force, then I got a little more serious because I had actually ended up getting married, and so I went back and got degrees in computer science and computer electronics and stuff like that. So,
Okay. So you definitely have a background in tinkering with high-tech devices and...
yeah, and then I went to work for one of the older computer companies, which is still, it merged. I don't know if people know Burroughs Corporation, and then it actually merged with Sperry Univac to become what's a company that's called Unisys now.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
And they're still around?
oh yeah, it's around, and so I spent about 30 years with them. And then I retired from them. And then what did I do? Oh, yeah, that's right. I decided I would, I sat around a little bit. Next thing I know, I got a telephone call. And so I went to saying, hey, you want to go work for these people? So I went down and worked for an outfit called SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications.
Holy cow.
Yeah, when you... they're the ones that move money around the world. So,
Right.
okay, and so I worked for them for about 8 years and rewrote some of their stuff. And,
Like, so are you talking about getting in and coding software and such?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you want to send $10 million over to England or France or somewhere like that, then you use my code to do that.
Really?
It's the truth. It's
Oh,
true.
wow.
Well,
See,
yeah, no, it actually is, but it's actually keeps changing all the time. So anyway, so then I left them, and then I went to work for U.S. Patent and Trademarks for a while.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I did that for a little while, but then everything I was waiting for my wife. She was a good bit younger than me.
Yeah.
And so,
you cradle robber.
yeah, well, she was our second wife.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, she's a much more interesting character than I am. But anyway, I kept waiting, for her to retire, and then we were going to go live on the beach somewhere or something like that because she always liked the beach and
Yeah.
everything.
Where did you have a destination in mind?
Not
International or Florida?
Just Florida. Really.
Oh, okay.
See, I'm a Florida native. I was born there.
Oh, whereabouts?
Actually, St. Luke's Hospital in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've got family that live down in St. Pete.
That lives down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can go. I mean, my family moved down there when they were to fight Indians with Andy Jackson. So,
Oh, way back.
I mean, they've been there for a long time.
Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah. How far back can you take your lineage in the States?
In the colonies, well, one side of my family goes back to around 1612, and another side that goes back to about 1730. I have one of my great grandfathers used to sail a galley around this river up in all.
Really?
Yeah, if you go down to the end of Hilton Head, there's a cove down there and the point that's named for my grandfather.
Oh, I think you were telling me that
Yeah,
last time we
once
were headed
upon a
over to good old West Marine.
Great grandfather. I mean, great. Well, I don't know if we're way on back, but anyway, so that's sort of hang around here. I've got relatives all over the place. Actually,
Here in the South Carolina.
South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. I mean, they just spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so all right, so that's sort of pretty much it. So why I'm here is because my wife passed away, and I tried to sit around a little bit. I couldn't sit around, so I just basically divested myself of everything and
Like house, car, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I still got.
The vehicle.
I had a couple of Beamers. I got rid of those and got myself a little Subaru.
Oh, nice. What kind? I when I was younger, those being from northern Michigan with the all-wheel drive, that's all we ever had.
Yeah.
What kind?
It's a little Subaru Forester.
Oh, the Forester. Okay, very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so what was it?
So you're getting rid of all your stuff.
Yeah, I got it. And actually, it turned out to be harder than I thought because I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
So I said I would just give it to them. Well, they're all grown, and they're all professional sort of people, and so they all have houses. They actually even have.
They all have
kids.
stuff. Yeah.
And so I would say, "Here, take this stuff." So we don't want that stuff. If we want something, they go out and buy it. So I ended up giving most of it to Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, nice, Richard.
Yeah. Oh, they think I'm such a wonderful person, and
I'll bet they do. Well, though that's I think that's a huge thing that's missing. I wish there was a whole lot more of that sort of it. That sort of just giving, because those sort of things help people out tremendously.
Oh yeah, it does, and so they make good use of it. And I gave a nice piano to one of the local churches there, and so I mean my kids are fine. They're all take care of themselves fine.
Right.
And so anyway, so I got on the boat
and this was, sorry, how long ago was it when you got on the boat?
It's actually, I guess, close to 3 years ago now, because I got on the boat and then I took it down to Florida.
Oh, okay.
And hung around there for a little while, and then I turned around and I went back up to the Chesapeake Bay and spent the summer up there. And I was going on my way back to Florida, and I stopped in here to do a couple of things, and the COVID stuff hit.
Right,
and
right.
I've been here ever since.
Hey, I hear you. I got in here. My first year down here was last year, or I guess I pulled in 2000. Well, it would have been 2019, but I was gone most of that winter because I was on the book tour, and then was in Michigan in late February when all the lockdowns started. So I didn't come back down here until May, I think, of 2020.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, anyway, I ended up taking more apart than so I'm trying to get everything back together so that it, is able to travel again. So.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, so. And is the plan to go further south?
No, I was going to go south. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but Chris was originally making up this thing. He was going to get a group of people together and go down to St. Mary's, and everybody was going to paint their bottoms.
Oh,
you remember that?
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I'm the only one that bought paint, and I got paint, and
and nobody went.
And everybody else bunked out on it. So I think
funny how that happens, Chris.
So anyway, I think what I'm going to do is maybe go up to the bay. There's some yards up there that I'll have them pull it out and and do it, because I actually would like to do. I did the bottom myself a long time ago, but I'd like to do it one more time, because the nice thing about doing the bottom yourself is you pick over. I would like to just pick over everything and see every little
look at all the through holes and look for anything that might be a little suspicious. We had at Bitter End, we had an Express 37, and one year we ripped that out and had a really big fin keel. I mean, this thing was a racing machine. It was old. I think they were built in Santa Cruz back in the 80s. But Yeah, you could see where the actual keel was put together had a big crack, and
Oh, okay.
anybody who wasn't really meticulous wouldn't even seen it. They would have painted right over it. But luckily we found it, and it was just the keel bolts had to be retightened, and then we reglassed it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, being able to pick apart and take a look and examine under the water line is pretty huge. I mean, I've always pulled my boat out every single year at least once to be able to inspect it, repaint it, and do all that.
Yeah, and I always did that too. This is the longest it's actually sat in the water.
Yeah,
So-
how long has it been? 3 years?
No, about 2.
2
It's
years.
not coming up on 2. Well, how's COVID been here?
Too long.
But
Way
I've been
too
up
long.
and down, yeah. Well, in the summer, I pulled it out up in the summer, up there on the bay.
Right.
And so I'll go back up there and pull it out again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking how much do you find that it usually costs just to yank it out and put it back in, like around $500 or something? Without the
up there,
time.
it's usually a little bit cheaper,
Oh, really?
for just pulling it and blocking it and everything.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And to put it back in, that's fine. And then they make their money on the other stuff that they do and stuff.
Well, because that's one of the things that I've found is there's a lot of places nowadays where you can't do your own work.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to go through and inspect stuff and maybe a little sanding here and there, but there's a lot of places that
They don't.
Yeah, they won't let you do it.
But I know that these yards up there. That's why I really want to go back up in there.
because they'll let you do it.
Well, there's some that they sort of specialize that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, and well, I maybe get up and find out the world has changed, but no, I'm pretty sure that they'll.
Right.
They haven't changed. Actually, I'll call them probably before I go and everything when I get ready to go.
Well, and that's one of the things with the place that I go up in Maine, up at Knights Marine. I mean, you can do all the stuff yourself, and it just makes a world of difference because, I mean, it's expensive to get somebody to do the paint job. I don't know if I was if I had a little more means, then I probably would. Just because doing the bottom paint, I think ranks just a little bit higher on my annoyance meter, just over varnishing the cap rail.
If the reason I want to do this is I want to go over the bottom and paint it and make sure it's got a good solid base under there.
Yeah.
And then at least for some years, I'll let people paint over it because I'll know the underlying is good.
Yeah.
And that usually works out a little bit cheaper, but I want to, particularly since it's been there and people have been scraping the bottom and stuff like that. I want to look at it good and make sure.
It'll definitely thin it out. I mean, I end up when I'm repainting because I typically don't try and sand it too much, and then I just start applying paint and it just starts flaking off underneath because that paint's really sticky. Mm-hmm. And that's where I get pretty lazy because usually my back hurts by that point. I'm just like, I just keep mopping more of it on. But if I can get 2 coats on this last year, I ended up buying some strange, I don't know if it was like racing paint. It was so they have ablative, which I think is where it sort of comes off.
It washes off.
It washes off as you go more and more miles. And then this other type, it was more of a harder shell. So when I put it on and the boat was out of the water, you could touch it and it wouldn't come off on your hands.
Yeah.
And it was like lipstick red. Almost hot pink. It was unbelievable. I got made fun of up there in the yard in Maine the whole time.
Makes me wonder what you got there.
I know. Well, and the weird thing is now, since I have that little rudder blade for the wind vane out of the water, that comes off on everything. So I don't know. It's kind of a mystery. I wish that's one thing I need to start doing is anytime I'm putting paint on anything, I'm going to take a picture of it so that I know what I put on. Because it's always good to typically put the same stuff on.
Yeah. Well, when I first got this boat, it had it had been used for racing and stuff, so it had VC. It had a racing
Oh,
paint on the
okay.
bottom, and nothing sticks to that stuff.
Well, is that the stuff where typically they'll put it on and they'll sort of sand it, and then they'll put another? Because I know some bottom paint, especially on high end race boats, it doesn't even look like bottom paint. It looks like hull paint, like it's like shiny.
Yeah, that's VC probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it took. I had to blast all of that stuff off. I mean, it just so that I could put regular paint on there again.
Yeah.
I mean, because nothing sticks
Nothing
to
will stick to it, right?
Yeah.
What they use, walnut or sodium? Baking
this
soda?
is a long time, and it was done by some guys that I knew and I really trusted. They were really good with
Removal.
what they're.
Yeah.
They're up there on the bay. There are some really good yard places, you know.
Yeah. Now, when you say up there on the bay, what exactly are you talking about?
I go on the northern bay. Usually on the eastern shore around,
Up in the Chesapeake, you're talking?
yeah.
Oh,
around
okay.
Rock Hall and farther up around Susquehanna, towards the Susquehanna and those places. Actually, Rock Hall has got some great guys around there that really know what they're doing, but then other ones do too. You know, Hinckley's got yards there. They got a yard on the north side of Annapolis, and then over at Oxford on the eastern shore. I mean, there's been the Hinckley yard been there for God knows how long.
Well, I mean, the Chesapeake is, I mean, it's basically the sailing capital of the U.S. I mean, a lot of people would disagree. They'd say Newport or San Francisco, but I think there's more boats in the Annapolis, Chesapeake area than there are anywhere else.
I would say
in the U.S.
Annapolis and San Francisco. That's where the real sailing.
Newport. The Newport people are going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's all right. Well, can I ask you something? So, not to go too far back, but so when you were when you were making the transition from house to boat, first question is how did that sort of change your outlook on things and just change day-to-day stuff when you were pretty much, once you had gotten rid of all this stuff, all these extra things that, you know, normally people always have. Yeah. And then you slim down to a boat. What sort of change was that like?
It took me almost 2 years to get rid of everything. At first, you know, I got rid of, you know, I gave most of it away to Habitat for Humanity, Salvation Army, Goodwill. And then I got down to like a 10 by 30.
Keep that mic nice and close.
Like to 10 by 30. And then I went back, and it took me a whole summer just to clean out the 10 by 30.
And did it feel pretty good? I mean,
yeah,
as far as really liberating almost?
Well, it was. I mean, because it's just stuff. I mean, your reality is it's stuff. And so I really got down to where I just have, you know, just me. You know, it's just enough for me. My kids are all in good shape. Yeah. I don't have to worry about them, you know, and so it's just me. So,
well, and I've always found that a boat has the extraordinary ability of not letting a person gather up too much stuff.
Yes.
You know, I was at a friend's place and you know, my clothes are starting to get a bit tired. I haven't really done any big shopping sprees, I guess, since I started doing big, long trips. Yeah. And, I've always got friends that are, oh, hey, you know, do you need some jeans? You want some sweaters? You want this thing? And I have to shake my head. I'm like, my closet is the size of a kitchen cabinet. I'm sorry. Like, I don't have room for all this sort of stuff, but I appreciate it. So, I don't know. Small boats definitely keep you in the minimalist side of things, I think.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go out and buy this. I bought this boat like about 15 years ago. I'm trying to remember now.
Oh, you've had it for a long time.
Yeah. And my wife and I used to gunk hole around the Chesapeake on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so, I mean, that's sort of part of why, you know, I sort of did this. I didn't go out and get this. I had it.
Yeah.
And so I just divested myself of everything and then went and got on the boat. And my wife was not doing well for a few years, and so it had kind of gotten a little bit in disrepair. And it's an older boat too, so
Was it in the water the whole time, or was
No,
it at a boatyard?
no, I usually would pull it out and put it, let it dry out good and everything,
Right.
over the winter up there,
Oh, right.
right, and then put it back in the water. So,
But they are. It's crazy how boats are constantly decaying. And if you are not constantly maintaining them, they just fall right off the rails so fast.
yeah, I mean, there's something about the water and being around the water that really accelerates the entropic process.
Yeah. Good word. Well, and also if you don't use it,
Yeah.
tends to, when you do use it, it's going to break. I know that with engines for sure. I mean, it almost sounds incorrect, but if you were to take a sailboat and put it in a glass jar, it would still be decaying in there. The minute you took it out and tried to use it, everything needs lubrication. That's why I run my engine like once a week, even though I'm not going anywhere, at least not yet.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Though these diesels are really tough engines. I mean, you could leave one sit for about 5 years and come in and clean it up really good and change all the oils and everything, and you'd have it
Fire
running.
right up. Yeah, they are. I mean, well, mine's an old Perkins from, I don't know if it's from the 70s. I want to say it's probably from the 80s. I don't think it's the original engine. But yeah, I mean, I obviously have had a few problems, a few hiccups here and there, but boy, I feel like that thing is just made to run and run, and it wants to run.
Yeah, no, they do. They just, small diesels, they just run. Actually, big diesel, they don't care. Well, these super fancy ones they put in, well, even they're really good. But the trouble is, if in a truck, they put miles on them like crazy.
Oh yeah,
in a truck, yeah. So diesels are just tough.
Well, and then nowadays they have to have a computer plugged into them to diagnose a lot of the issues. I know we had in some of our bigger boats, so we're talking 375 horsepower diesels. We had John Deere's, we had Cummins, but the newer John Deere's that we got, anytime there was a problem, it needed a computer to be plugged into it to get it diagnosed.
Yeah.
And I cannot stand that. I think that's just the biggest waste. Because a diesel, one of the beauties of it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that simplicity makes it so that you can diagnose it, troubleshoot it, and fix it yourself.
I mean, the problem is that they're making particularly the big ones more sophisticated because all of the
emission standards
and stuff
that's
like
true.
that. And so that's really what's doing it. They don't nowadays. They frown on you puffing a bunch of black smoke out the.
Oh yeah. Well, if your boat's puffing a bunch of black smoke, you better take it in to get it repaired anyway, because it shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. I always worry about it. Like during this winter when it was pretty chilly, I'd get that thing to fire up, and is that steam or is that white smoke? I mean, there's all sorts of different symptoms, but normal operation, I can run that thing for 48 hours and everything seems to be just fine. Knock on wood.
No, they'll just run. They'll just run and run and run and run.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
Yeah. But
wow.
Anyway, so.
So now you're on the boat, and like I said, I mean, one of the things I'm always seeing, you're always tinkering with something. You're adding another antenna or another system. What were you working on just now with the? Oh gosh, what is it? It's not with the auto helm.
No. I mean, today I'm just greasing my rudder shaft.
Greasing the rudder shaft. Okay, gotcha.
And probably what you're thinking about is I put AIS on the boat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to do that, and because nowadays AIS is really almost like essential equipment if you're traveling a good bit.
Oh, I think so. I use it all the time. Obviously, when I'm alone, I mean, I still have to sleep.
Yeah.
there's not a lot of traffic typically where I sail, but at the same time, that can get you into trouble because you start thinking, I don't know, nobody's around here. No problem at all. But I don't know. I typically end up sort of turning the alarm off and everything when I'm coming up the river, because the thing just beeps and beeps. But
yeah,
I think it's slowly replacing radar on a lot of boats.
yeah. The reason that I put the radar on there and I wanted to have that is because, particularly sailing close to the coast, my impression is that you get a lot of these fishing boats that don't.
You can move the microphone too if you want.
Yeah.
Feel free. Get comfortable, Richard.
Yeah.
You're doing great, by the way. Are you enjoying the interview?
It's fine. Well, we're just talking. That's all. We're just talking.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I wanted to have the radar because we got these fishing boats that are bad about turning off their AIS.
That's something I've had a ton of.
So
of that.
you have the radar to give you a backup for if they're running AIS silent.
Yeah.
Then you got the radar to still.
Well, and I sort of don't dive in, I guess, with a lot of stuff as much as I should. But is it pretty easy to switch your AIS so that you're only receiving and you're not sending?
Yeah.
You can do that even on like the type that we have, because we've got, so there's two types. There's type A, which is for commercial vessels, container ships, fishing vessels. And then there's type B, which is what you'd find on, my boat or a small private
that's
boat.
really about the rate at which they're sending out transmitting messages and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
These commercial guys, they're sending them really fast. Like pleasure craft, they're not so concerned about it. But nowadays, all AIS units are supposed to have also a silent mode. So I think it was caused by the fact that the AIS was being used in areas with pirates, so that you can, if you're in a vicinity where it's known to have pirates around, you can flick it into silent mode.
Oh, that's smart. Okay.
Yeah.
That's always the question I always get asked is about pirates. What do I do if there's pirates around? And I have the same answer. I've never seen any. I stay 400 miles off of any suspected coast.
The pirates don't run 400 miles out. So.
No, typically they don't. No,
yeah.
But I would say when I pass, like Cape Verde Islands, which is not known for any piracy or anything like that. I think the one time where I was a little bit nervous was a very small island called Sao Paul Island in the middle of the Atlantic near the equator. And I think it's just like a fishing port, tiny little thing. But I was a little nervous there, and I got approached by an old derelict sort of looking fishing boat on the big trip around the world. And that was pretty spooky because they were just coming right for me, and they didn't have AIS or anything like that. And it just looked like a rust bucket. So it was, I was like, what are these guys doing?
It's hard to know. I've read about things two ways. I mean, you normally you have a tendency to think that they're pirates, but sometimes they just want to be friendly.
Yeah, these guys were trying to sell me fish.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I wasn't so nervous about them approaching, I probably would have taken them up on the offer. But can you imagine a 80-foot fishing boat slowly backing up, and then a wave catches it just wrong, and it smashes a hole right in my side?
Yeah,
not good for Sparrow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So when did you learn how to sail?
Oh, I guess I was about in my teens somewhere.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I used to have a little boat, and I'd sail it around the rivers and stuff like that. And that was, I'll actually tell you the truth, that's the most fun sailing that there is.
Small boat sailing.
Small boats.
Wet and wild.
Yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, I used to sail like that a good bit. And then I actually crewed at least one time on a ocean racer and not for the race, but just to transport it and stuff. And
Oh, where was that from?
well, actually, we were taking it from Cape Fear down to Miami.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Offshore?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it was nice. But then after all of that, then I kind of got off into my career and stuff for a long time. And,
Right.
And then so I kind of got back into sailing about 15 years ago or stuff.
Oh, okay. Now,
Yeah.
what was your favorite small boat?
Just actually, I don't. Just a little, little sloop, nothing big. I mean,
Really?
I didn't pick any real one.
Oh, you didn't have any like fanfare. Mine
No.
was a Hobie 16, through and through. That was what I actually learned how to sail on.
Well, yeah, but this actually, what I would sail on is just just a little sloop.
Right.
Yeah.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Nice. Done a lot of teaching. I started teaching sailing when I was about 21, I think, shortly after learning how to sail, and it was on a boat called a Butterfly,
Yeah.
which is like a 12-foot. It kind of looks like one of those e-scows, those really fast. There's like no freeboard at all. It's just this. It looks like a surfboard with a giant sail.
Yeah.
This is a mini version of them. Boy, those things were a lot of fun.
But anyway, when I lost my wife, and I sort of said, well, what I'm going to do. So that's why I kind of got on this boat, and it needed some fixing up and things. And so I just start working along on the boat and fixing this and fixing that and traveling around and stuff like that.
And then you wound up here.
Yeah, I got that care, and I'm trying to get busy so that I can get moving again.
Yeah, right. No, I hear you. I know that. I know that feeling. Well, so were you ever planning for you and your wife to take off on the boat? Was that sort of the game plan?
We never were that. She wanted a little cottage on the beach somewhere or something like that. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, and that would have been nice. Actually, that would have been really nice. Though I don't know if it would have been quite as healthy for me, because one of the things I've sort of discovered is, that being on the boat and constantly doing things and stuff like that is really good for your health.
It does. It keeps you moving, and you have to do these sort of physical things, sometimes if you're surrounded by big, giant couches and huge TVs and people to do all the stuff for you,
Yeah.
you don't even have to do anything.
Well, my personal observation is, I have a number of cousins. I got sisters and things, and that are about my age, and a lot of them, sit down. They got a condo on the beach or something around, and their health is declining unbelievably fast, whereas mine's holding up.
Nice. You found the fountain of youth, sir.
Well, I really think that sitting around is not a good idea.
I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, it's just you start atrophying, and next thing you know, you're in a assisted living home. That's what happens.
Well, and it's mental as well, because if you're not challenging yourself, and boats are great for that. I mean, jeez, they will throw so many problems your way that you have to figure out and solve. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, just about. If you think you got it figured out, just wait.
Yeah, just give it about 10 minutes. Try and run that engine a few times. Are you as skilled with engines as you are with some of the electronic stuff?
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm really skilled, but I'm pretty good skilled. See, when I was a teenager, I liked hot rods, and so I used to work on hot rods and stuff like that. And so I have certain mechanical skills, so it all just sort of
translates over.
Yeah.
I've always had the dream of owning and fixing up an old 1940s Jeep Willys.
Oh,
that's been the goal. But the problem is I haven't been in one place for long enough to actually own a car.
Well, which kind of Willys are you?
Yeah, the old Army Jeeps.
Oh, you want a Jeep?
Jeep
Okay.
Willie. Yeah, like the old
A
super
40s
classic.
year, not yeah.
Yeah, no.
You don't want a Jeep Stir. You want a Jeep.
Yeah,
a real
I want a Jeep, a real one. The no roll bar, none of that stuff. The
you're
the
talking
window
pretty,
you can lay down.
You're talking pretty pricey. Those the
No,
ones that are left are come with a premium on them because you're not the only one that wants.
You
one.
can you go on eBay, you'll find them for under 10 grand. But you can find project ones.
You mean authentic ones?
Oh yeah, because a lot of them are just rusted out.
Oh, you mean it's all rust? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's got to be a project. I've got a buddy of mine up in Maine. He can basically rebuild any kind of automobile, and he loves doing it. And he always said that if I can find a Willys up there, we can work on it at the yard. But he's got to get out of prison first. So that's see you this summer, bud. No, but yeah, I've always wanted one. But like I said, I don't know. It's interesting because I've been living on that boat now for over 5 years, or just about 5 years, and it's been an absolute blast. But at the same time, there are things that you have to sort of give up that I sort of do miss. I mean, would be nice sometime to have a house, I suppose, but boy, that's so far beyond any budget that I realistically ever feel like I could have. But no, just something like having a car or a dog. I don't know.
Well, I'm sort of back and forth. I got this car right here, and I was thinking about getting rid of it and everything because everything's a hassle. Now, the trouble, if you stay along along the ICW along the coast here, it's nice to have a car.
Right. Yeah, because not every marina is like this with
particularly
complimentary
there are
car.
some really nice marinas along the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay, but you can't survive there without a car.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because they're all isolated.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you got to have a car for that, and just getting there and getting back. So it's great sailing the boat in there.
Yeah,
but then I mean,
you're sort of stuck. It's like you got to Uber everywhere if you can even do that.
Yeah.
Well, I was in. Are you familiar with Patriots Point up in Charleston? It's the one with the big aircraft carrier and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a nice little marina resort there. It's fancy. It's super expensive. It's nice though. But to get to the grocery store, it's like, I want to say it was over a mile.
Yeah.
And I had a skateboard, that same one that I have here. And so I would ride that and go to the grocery. But even to just go to the nearest gas station and get 6-pack or something, it was like almost a mile as well. And when you're carrying, I used to take my backpack and I'd fill that up with as much stuff. And then I'd have 2 bags in my hands and skateboarding down the sidewalk. And I just, I mean, they supposedly had some sort of complimentary little bus, but it always went at really bad times, and I don't know.
Never when you wanted to go.
Never when I wanted. This was way before even COVID and stuff, but I've always gone grocery shopping after 7:00, right around dinner time, because the place is empty.
Yeah,
and it takes 2 seconds, and then you're out of there. You go during the middle of the day, and holy smokes.
Yeah, what's it like up in Maine? I mean, is grocery stores close by, walking distance, or what?
Yeah, I mean, they're the nearest one up there. They're called Hannaford's, and I want to say it's maybe just a shade under a mile away. And sometimes I'll skateboard up there if I don't have to get too much stuff. But if I have to, when I get up there and I need to restock everything, then I'll usually they have a cab company there, which those are disappearing. But because Rockland is also the marina's right next to the ferry terminal, because there's all those islands out there. There's a pretty thriving little taxi company.
Well, yeah, actually, I mean, I'm okay in the sense that I've got a bike on the boat. Actually, I have to show you sometime. It actually hangs from the ceiling in the cabin roof.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Is it an electric one or just regular bicycle?
No, it's just a regular.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Regular, not a full-blown mountain bike, but sort of.
Pretty close. Do they have tiny wheels?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a regular bike.
Have you seen those fold-up ones? You can fold them up.
Yeah,
into
I know you see those sort of things. Now, this is a regular bike that I had, and the good thing about it is you can take the front wheel off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Storage
so I
is
take
easy.
the front wheel off, and I put the hooks, bike hooks on the cabin roof.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hang it from the bike hooks, and then I take a little. I pull it over to the side so that it's sitting like this in the. I'm showing.
Yeah, right. For our audience now, Richard has his hand extended. It's vertical. Now it's sort of diagonal.
So that it's back. So it's sitting there kind of like a chandelier over the settee.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of cool. There you go. That's not a bad setup.
And then I tuck the wheel in behind it so that it sits up. So it's in out of the way over there.
Right.
It kind of uses up what's pretty much dead space.
Yeah.
And so I can take that down and go ride it somewhere if I need to. Or
Yeah.
like
Well, and that comes in handy for sure. I mean, it's one thing I've never shied away from walking a couple of miles to go get something. I learned that on the Appalachian Trail, but if I don't have to, I won't. This is why I like it here too, because Publix is almost a mile away, I suppose, but there's a Dollar General. There's a few shops right across the street, which make it pretty easy.
I know of any. I sort of stopped a lot of places up and down the ICW, and this is the one that seems to be the most convenient. You could, if you stop here, you can walk to anything that you need just about. So,
right. Well, I keep hearing a lot of good stuff about Oriental. Have you ever been up there?
Yes, actually, I stayed there for a week or so.
And that's North Carolina, right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that place?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually, the nicest thing about that is the local grocery store, the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
Runs a shuttle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
The Piggly Mobile. That's what they call it. And so, actually, if you need stuff from there, you can just anchor there and dinghy over to the little town dock.
Oh, okay.
And call up the grocery store, and they'll come get you and take you over to the grocery store.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. Now, if you want to stay for a while, they have this motel in the Oriental Motel in Marina.
Yeah.
And so that's where I stayed for about a week. You can actually stay in the motel, or you can stay on your boat there in a slip. So they have slips too.
Do they have a pretty extensive dock system?
Dock system? Yeah.
Yeah, like is it more docks than we've got here, sort of thing?
No, actually, fewer. It's just that's a small thing. Now, I haven't been there, but I want to go around to Deaton's, I think it's called, and because that's supposed to be a pretty extensive place. It's just outside of Oriental, right on the edge of it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I've never been to any of those places. Mm-hmm. One of these days, I think a lot of it for me though is just because I'm by myself, doing the intercoastal, trying to keep a watch. Mm-hmm. Doing all that sort of, it's very stressful when you're alone. But when you have a couple of people, all of a sudden, then it can be pretty fun. When you're docking up, you're not doing it by yourself. You can keep an eye out, and you can switch. You can go down below and use the head, mm-hmm. or check something, do this or that. One of these days, I'd like to transition onto a bigger boat with more crew, or a crew.
with a crew.
A crew would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, the last week when we were talking about all the different nav lights and stuff, you
mm-hmm.
were telling me that you were sort of trying to bone up on your regulations and rules and all that sort of stuff. Why were you? What was getting you into that?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I had everything. I don't know. I just sort of do this kind of stuff. And I wanted to make sure that I understood how it should all be for particularly like going offshore. And my sort of mind, in my mind right now is if, running offshore, I'll sail for a while. So which means you got one light configuration.
Right.
But then from time to time, when I run the batteries down, I'll motor sail for a while. Now that changes your light configuration.
Yeah.
Now, I know we were talking, and you said you pull your jib down when you do motor sailing.
Yeah, but again, there's a lot of times. I mean, I typically just run my tricolor up top, and that's it. I don't even. I never change it. The only time I'll change my lights if I'm headed, if I'm in an area where there's a lot of fishing traffic and it's nighttime, like near George's Bank off Cape Cod and all that, then I'll usually just turn my deck lights on. So my red and green up forward and then the stern light, because those are bright, and those fishing boats, you know, they're not looking for tricolors at the top of mast 50 feet up. They're looking at the water's, you know, the water's surface.
Now, you can check up on me, but technically, if you're running the tricolor, you're saying you're under sail.
Right, exactly.
You're not running your motor. It says you're not running your motor.
I believe that is correct. And it's one of those things, I had to learn every single one, flashcards, all that stuff to get my RYA captain's license. But I don't know. It's one of those things, when you're not doing commercial work, boy, a lot of those rules just go right out the window. I mean, I still have my little manual and everything, so I could study up on it, but shoot, in the Southern Ocean, I don't think I ever use my nav lights. But there's nobody down there, so
yeah, you might as well just turn everything off.
Yeah.
Well, if you switch everything over to LED, it's not so bad. But burning those halogens is
oh yeah,
it's eating.
I got rid of I only have 2 halogens on my boat, and they're what I call accent lights. So right over my dining room table, as I like to call it, and then in the cockpit, and those are the only. Everything else is LED because, man, and those I would only ever use if I'm either running the engine or I'm plugged into shore power.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean that's really what I was trying to do, is work out exactly what should be for being legal, in these various configurations, like sail only or
right, and just for your own knowledge bank, basically.
Well, you remember, I just got through going through my career, sort of career, and that's the way I am. I want to know
exactly.
Gotcha.
What are you using to study that stuff right now?
Well, actually, I was looking at the Colin regs and comparing them. I had a little handbook that I got. I don't know who made it up, that showed me some configurations, and then cross-referencing the Colin regs, the inland version of it, and to make sure that it all, that I understood and synced and where it all came from. And some of it's confusing in the sense that if you just read the Colin regs from beginning to end, there are legitimate configurations that you can mix and match with, but it's not obvious because you're just reading from beginning to end.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't catch that.
Right. Well, and it also depends on how you're sort of studying it as well. I know we came into a problem where when we were trying to learn this stuff, it was all flashcards and pictures. And then we got on board with our examiner over in England, and he would just say, you see a red, 2 whites, and a yellow. What are you looking at? And you'd be like trying to picture this card in your head. And so I think it was just one of those things where we had learned a certain way, expecting to be shown these cards, and they were trying to test us in a different realm. I mean, we sort of figured it out after a while, because you look at those things enough and it's like, holy cow. But what's the weirdest light configuration you've ever seen in real life?
In real life?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I don't know that I've really seen in real life.
I'll bet you've seen some dredgers and stuff. They've got a pretty messed up one where it's like 2 reds, 2 greens. I don't even know. I can't even remember.
Well, the yellow. To me, if you're seeing yellow, you better figure out where you are.
Yeah, right.
I mean, anytime you see yellow, you're going. And if you see flashing yellow, you're really in for it.
Well, let me ask you this one. just to test, because this one was the easiest because it was the most odd. But
yeah,
if you see 3 green in a triangle,
3 green.
it's a minesweeper.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Green, multiple greens. It does say
Minesweeper,
clearing
yeah.
mines.
Yeah.
Well, what about
You don't
blue?
see that very often.
What about blue?
Blue, isn't that like the police boat?
That's police. Yeah.
That's sort of a different one. And I don't know
if you
if
see
that's...
blue, pull over.
Yeah, right.
Run.
One time out middle of the South Atlantic, I saw 2 red, and that was it. And that's the signal for not under command.
Yeah.
And there was no nav lights, so no deck lights or anything showing. So it wasn't underway. It was underway, but it wasn't making way. So it wasn't anchored. It was just drifting, but it wasn't in forward or reverse. There's all sorts of that. It's such a funny thing how exacting those things have to be. Yeah. And it's obvious. I mean, it has to, because if you have a collision, somebody's going to have to be at fault, so they have to be able to figure it out. So those rules have to be super specific. But because I think making way means that you're actually have some sort of propulsion. Underway means that you are not tied or anchored to anything. And that's all I got.
I don't know. I need, ultimately, I need to bone up on still more of that. I was specifically looking, when I was going through it, I was looking for configurations for my boat.
Right, yeah.
What were the, I wanted to make sure that I knew everything that I would want to, every light configuration that I might need to put on my boat. And like I said, the oddest one I discovered, and it took me a while to unravel it, was that if you're motor sailing, you can all around white and side lights. That's actually the correct motor sailing.
See, and that's, I mean, I don't know. I do remember there used to be issues where, because like a pilot vessel, I think it's white over red, pilot in bed. That was what we always learned.
Yeah.
And then red over white, frying tonight. That's a fishing vessel. Yeah, I don't know. We had all these rhymes and stuff like that, but there are ways, sort of what you're talking about, where it sort of contradicts one thing over the other, and to get it really precise.
Well, the thing that I was, like I said, I was trying to figure out, like we were talking, and you said, well, you know, normally you see your steaming light is on the mast. So if you've got a jib up, you're covering your steaming light.
Well, yeah, off to one side. Yeah, that's for sure.
Right. So
usually, though, it'll illuminate the sail, so that can kind of turn into your light. But that doesn't
technically count. You're supposed to be able to see it for 2 miles. So.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah. Now, side lights, they're always placed so that you can see them with sails or.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's actually the other thing that I learned. Side lights mean your red and green. They don't talk about that's a stern light. It's separate from your side lights.
Right.
Side lights, your forward red and green. That's what side lights are.
It's really, it can get a little daunting for sure, but when in doubt, and that, well, I was going to say when in doubt, turn them all on, but that actually screws people up.
Now you're making everything very confused.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I've had to turn my my spreader lights that illuminate the whole boat, the deck and everything, super bright. When there's a question of whether or not a ship sees me. And that's typically just if it's looking a little too close for comfort. I can't get them on the radio, which I never seem to be able to get people to respond.
There's some write-up, but I can't remember it all of it. But actually, I mean, you should have all your nav lights. But then, particularly for ships, they say turn on your deck lights. That's actually in the regs about lighten up your boat.
Yeah. So
that you can see what it is.
Right.
But that should be below your nav lights.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I have one secret weapon, especially, and it's really only emergencies, as far as either being rescued, I suppose, or just making sure that someone sees you. But I don't know if it's legal or not. But like I have a really high-powered laser pointer, a green one, that I use just for doing star lectures and things like that. But you can also pinpoint, the control room of a container ship pretty easily, and that will not go unnoticed. So if it was at night and I was basically just on a collision course and I couldn't get this guy on the radio, if I hit him up with that, he's definitely going to notice there's something right out there.
Right. Just so long as it doesn't blind him. So.
Yeah, I know. But, hey, if it's the choice between blinding him or running me over, I don't know. I'm not going to do that. But I don't recommend that. That's just, like I said, an absolute last resort, emergency sort of thing. Well,
yeah.
Who knows? Well, Richard, believe it or not, we're already at an hour.
Wow.
I know. Crazy,
this
right?
This has been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? I just like to, I like to sit down with, see sailors, I shouldn't even say sailors, but people who are on boats typically have such an interesting story because it's just not the norm of how you went from this to that to now all of a sudden you live life on the water. And it's always pretty cool. And I would have never known about all the stuff way back in the past. Man, I feel like we might need to do a follow-up because I'd love to hear more about the history of your family roaming around in these parts on the old-time ships. Do you know a lot about that?
Well, some I know about because I got interested and started looking around, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, I'll let the listeners I don't get very many comments on this. I don't even know if I can find a place where I can look at comments, but if people want to hear more from Richard, I'm here for another week, so we could maybe do another one if you wanted to. Who knows? But I feel like we only scratched the surface.
Well, my current goal is I want to get myself in shape where I can winter in the Bahamas and summer in Maine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay, and so that's what I'm working towards.
Where up in Maine? Anywhere?
I don't know where yet.
Doesn't even matter. Gotcha.
Somewhere in Maine.
Very cool. Well, when do you do you have a time frame for your goal there?
The next year or two,
Yeah, because listening to Dave and Peggy, I don't know if you heard their story about being over in the Bahamas, and then she tested positive for COVID. Then they had to leave. The weather was bad, all that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to get Dave on the show as well. But, yeah, I would imagine that by next winter, the Caribbean is probably going to open wide.
Yeah.
With arms wide open, hoping that they'll get as many tourists down there as possible because it's just been such a rough couple of years. Yeah,
yeah.
For the BVI in the Bahamas, you're talking 2017 Hurricane Irma, Maria, rebuilding and all that sort of stuff, and then the Bahamas they get hit by was it Adrian?
Yeah, it could be.
It was the one that sat on them and just that hurricane
just pounded them to death.
Yeah. Oh man, just sat on them, and then you have COVID coming in, which everybody has shut down. In all those economies, outside of just a few of those islands, it's all tourism.
Yeah.
So that's how these people are feeding their families and everything, and a lot of them still have restrictions and stuff, but I think they are opening up slowly.
Yeah.
So.
All right, this has been fun, actually.
Hey, yeah, I know. See, that's the thing. Everybody always thinks it's going to be this crazy, nerve-wracking thing. It's not like a job interview. It's just a casual convo.
I have to put in a good word with Dave because I think he's got some good stories.
I know he does. I've had dinner over on their boat a few times, and it's hilarious listening to some of his stuff. But I also want to I'd like to get a cat sailor,
Yeah.
He's got the catamaran, and all I've ever spoken with are people that are monohull. So us old slow boats. I'd like to hear some stories from him and Peggy too. Who knows? Yeah. Well, Richard, thank you very much for coming on the show. And any parting last words of wisdom?
No, just keep doing it. That's all you can do.
There we go. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoy the podcast and want to support it, just go to podbean.com and you can become a patron and keep the show on the air. Also, if you like the music at the beginning, the album is called Deep Teal, and the artist is Adrian Edson. It's available on Amazon Music. And if you want the full story of the trip around the world, the book, the Kindle book, and the audiobook can all be found on Amazon.com, Sailing into Oblivion, the solo nonstop voyage of the Mighty Sparrow. Fair winds and following seas.